Hello, everybody, and welcome to and welcome to the Triple H retrospective for whatever the hell you want to call this st- stream. But for tonight, my co-host is Sean from the Hall. And it's good to have you back on the channel. And just quickly before you start the conversation, I've pinned I've pinned a comment with the whole X channel and put it in the chat. So if you could all subscribe to uh, the whole expo, he's that he's fantastic. But welcome back to the channel, Sean.
Thanks for having me back, Daniel. I really appreciate it. I love doing these. I wish I could do more of them, but with like life and kids and
Yeah,
work gets in the way of that sometimes. But thanks for having
yeah.
me back on. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time.
Yeah. So just before we get into the main purpose of the stream, because obviously it was WrestleMania a couple of weeks ago. A, a couple of weeks ago, and in my mind, it's been it's the best WrestleMania since on my video. So so what are your so what were your thoughts on WrestleMania? Now, Jesus Christ, there's been uh,
Well, I know
things, but anyway.
it's ridiculous, really, isn't it? First of all, just say hello, Charlotte. Thank you for giving up your seat for me for tonight. Hello, nice to see you. Um, I actually was going into it thinking, like there was I don't think there was a great build up to most of the matches apart
Yeah,
from Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. But I mean, we've seen that how many times before. But I mean, the roles had reversed, so you had Roman Reigns as the big like villain, and Brock Lesnar as this sort of super happy cowboy kind of dude that I actually quite like, and it looks like he's enjoying himself
yeah,
more. So I mean,
mhm,
but then like I thought like the result of that was quite predictable.
yeah,
I was really looking forward to Edge and AJ Styles
yeah,
because I think those two are two of the greatest wrestlers ever, as far as
yeah,
I'm concerned. Um, but nothing was getting me more excited to see Stone Cold Steve Austin come back.
yeah,
Um,
yes,
and it's just like because even if it wasn't going to be a match, just to see him back and like
yeah,
the rumors were there was going to be some sort of altercation between him and Kevin Owens. And by the way, Kevin Owens is amazing as well. The way that
yeah,
he kind of carried it by himself, the whole build up to that
yeah,
interaction, I suppose. And I said it on Twitter to you like a couple of weeks ago. I was just
yeah.
like, it's a sad state of affairs where the thing I'm looking forward to most about WrestleMania is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, yeah,
and then you had like there was like the celebrity matches. So you had like the Miz and Logan Paul against the Mysterios. Again, something I was just like, I don't really like Logan Paul, to be honest with you.
yeah,
Well,
same
not
here.
until then, anyway. And then when I actually saw him in action, I was like, okay, fair play to him. He's like, he actually did his homework.
Yeah,
Obviously, like the other guys around him were sort of carrying him somewhat, but for
yeah,
someone who's like basically a YouTube personality,
yeah,
he fit quite well into that role.
yeah,
So that was a nice surprise. And then obviously you got the other celebrity match with Johnny Knoxville against Sami Zayn,
yeah.
and
That was really good. enjoyed that myself.
it was, and again, it was another one. I was thinking like, oh, this is just going to be really silly, and it's just going to be like an advert for Jackass. But actually,
Yeah,
Johnny Knoxville again proved that he can go with like the whole like sports entertainment thing. And Sami
yeah,
Zayn was a massive part of that as well, because
yeah,
he was such a good sport for the whole thing. Because you could get someone like, especially back in the old days, you could be like, oh, I ain't putting that person over. I
yeah.
almost swore then. I'm going to wait for a little bit later. It's like, I'm putting him over because he's not a wrestler. So but he did really well, and yeah. So it was good entertainment, definitely. And it was up for me the second night as well, when like Austin came out again and did the worst stunner of all time on Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
that was a laugh as well, because he had Pat McAfee as well. Anyway, I'm rambling. What was your favorite? What was your favorite match of the night, or the two nights?
Like, obviously, obviously, he been in a massive old fan
Yeah,
as I've documented me many times on the channel. The two Stone Cold appearances are probably the best, but I enjoyed I actually enjoyed the Johnny Knoxville Sami Zayn match, and AJ Styles versus Edge as
yeah,
well, because um as I've practically all the both of those guys are year for
yeah,
year, so that is a pretty good match as well. And even like the Becky and
yeah,
Bianca Belair match, I thought was good, but like but like no, wasn't bothered about the two tag team matches. I felt that he was probably the only ship parts to the story, because the tag team divisions I can pull joking my opinion, but obviously is I was glad that I so he get put over on
oh,
my ass
thank God
because
for that. Oh
um
my God.
um opposition, oh, I'm not the against as far as you've seen on Twitter, and I'm confident and he'll happen the guy, because the guy can't even a promo or wrestle or the thing. It's point now. It's I'm even being around this like giant Gonzalez 2.0. So
Yeah, and the Duke, it's like he's so big he can barely walk. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh
yeah,
God, it's like we got this whole thing of, yeah, Vince loves like his giants and stuff like that, and it's like,
yeah,
well, yeah, but I mean, at least make them interesting. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, like
yeah,
accentuate their positives and try and hide the weaknesses. But so far, it's just all weakness and no positive with Omos. It's just, they put him with AJ, they lumbered him with AJ Styles for
yeah,
like a year, and that didn't
yeah,
really do much difference other than degrade AJ Styles' credibility a little bit.
yeah.
And then now they've got him with MVP, which, okay, he's going to be his mouthpiece. But then what's the point? Because then if you're going to just have him talk for him, then he's going to do is just be like a big lumbering idiot. And
MVP, and an MVP hasn't on anything since he's on either. So it's like up to Ruby.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a point. It's exercise.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think unless because I know, like, you could say, Bobby Lashley, who hasn't been, he's not the greatest talker, and I
Yeah,
think that's why they had MVP with him for so long, because he was like the sort of a mirror image of Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. Because
yeah,
again, it was like, right, let's just emphasize the fact that they're really big, strong, beefy dudes, but they're not very great. They're not like the best at, you know,
yeah,
talking. Do you know what I mean? But I think Bobby Lashley's improved somewhat, so maybe they thought, right,
yeah,
we'll take MVP away from him, let him shine on his own, and
yeah,
put him with someone who needs him. But honestly, like we were saying a few times before, like on Twitter and stuff, and on the Messenger,
yeah,
I can see him. I can see him getting released in 6 months' time, because
yeah,
I think
same
Vince
here.
has got a very low patience level these days for
Yeah,
like he needs instant gratification.
yeah,
Yeah, or it's like, nope, gone. Yeah, all right. What happened to like character development? No, you can't do that anymore unless you're like
yeah,
a star of the like 20 years ago.
yeah. And I think he's going a bit senile as well because he forgets Oreo lines as well constantly. You have no taste as well.
Yeah.
And
Not only that, it's like he's senile, but because he's a grumpy old man, he will like literally turn up where a whole show has been written, and then he'll just change it halfway through the day,
yeah,
because it's like, no, I don't like that. I'm going to rewrite it. It's like, oh, hang on a minute. Like, this show has been prepared for. It's been
yeah,
written. These guys have got to go out. These guys and girls, we have got to go out and perform this show that has been written for the last couple of days,
yeah,
and you're changing it halfway through, and then you get pissed off because the changed product isn't good enough for you. And it's like, hang on a
yeah,
minute, what are you on about? You know, it's
yeah,
just a problem. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I've got massive respect for Vince McMahon in terms of
yeah, same,
what he's done for the business in like the whole, you know, in the
yeah,
time that it took for them to like really pick up, like from Attitude Era onwards, that sort of thing.
yeah,
And just as the Mr. McMahon character as a whole.
yeah,
But I'm sorry, I know it sounds bad, but you can't have like a senile, aggressive, impatient old fuddy duddy running your company if you expect to make millions of dollars from it as well. It's just like,
yeah.
no, it's just, yeah. But you know, it is what it is, isn't it? It's just got to wait and hope something better happens sooner or later.
So on the purpose of this stream is techno um is techno each and I don't mean Roman reigns,
I saw what you did there.
but techno each career of Triple H who is who was basically forced to retire a couple of weeks before WrestleMania,
Yeah.
and and to be honest, he's up there of Jericho as the best. He as the best. He he'll for or I always put him and Jericho joints in, as the two best heel performers. To
That's a
be
fair shout.
honest with you,
Yeah, I mean, it's just that it really is a student of the game, and
yeah,
that's where that's where his gimmick came from. You know, well,
yeah,
obviously it started with the kind of
yeah,
you know, the posh dude from like Connecticut who was like, you
yeah,
know, royalty and stuff like that when he was like Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
yeah,
Um, but even in that kind of era, he was still showing signs of what was to come,
yeah,
because you could tell that he was, you know, he was very clinical in his moves. He just played the character the way that he knew how to play it, and his evolution over time was brilliant. And I think we go on about the success of The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I think a big part of that success was Triple H, because he was you go on about every your hero's only as good as your villain.
Yeah.
And he made those. In my opinion, I mean, okay, obviously a lot of it was to do with them, but if it wasn't for him, then I don't think you would have that kind of will for them to overcome him if he wasn't as good as he was in his role, if that makes sense. And it got to the point, like as a kid watching it, before the age of the internet and everything else, you just when you actually believed it. And you thought, okay, this is like watching superheroes and stuff like that. It was like, oh god, I actually physically hated him.
Yeah,
it was just like, oh my god, he's put a sledgehammer in the face to like one of my favorite people. But you can appreciate it looking back, because it was just like he just played that character so well.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he was good at the wrestling as well. So he could tell a story with the wrestling as well as his character. And I've got nothing but respect and admiration for him. And even as it got later on in his career, when you had like the feuds with Brock Lesnar and the Undertaker, and then he did like the Authority stuff for a bit, and then he kind of went back to that heel gimmick again, and it worked in that sense for Daniel Bryan. Another example of, if it wasn't for Triple H, maybe Daniel Bryan's like meteoric rise wouldn't be quite as meteoric, because he was like the villain in the storyline again. So like one of my favorite villains growing up there with like characters like like the Joker and stuff like that, in terms of just a great character that you want the hero to overcome. So yeah, amazing.
So to ask you some of your favorite matches involving Triple H. What are some of your favorite matches and moments of his career?
I mean, you can't really deny the amazing Cactus Jack feud back in the early 2000. You've got here's a guy in Mankind with like 3 different characters that he sort of interchanges, and that early storyline of him facing Triple H as Mankind and not quite getting the job done, and like the dastardly deeds that Triple H was doing. And then you think, right, how am I going to overcome this guy? Right, I'll have to be like the hardcore legend version of myself in Cactus Jack. And just the absolute like brutality of those 2 matches. Particularly, I mean, obviously, like the Hell in a Cell match. It was No Way Out, wasn't it? And I mean, that's iconic in itself, with like the flaming 2x4 and all that sort of stuff. But for me, there's just something very visceral about the Royal Rumble match, like the street fight. And you've got like the thumbtacks, and you've got you've got like the barbed wire 2x4, and they really sold it like so well. Okay, looking back now, you'd be like, all right, it's just a bit of plastic. But the way that they sell it is so like, the fact that it gets like stuck to a couple of points, like stuck in his hair and things like that. And it's like, so those ones are up there. So many with The Rock as well. Backlash 2000.
That's one of my favourites as well. Such a good match as well.
Especially because you've got Triple H is a big part of it, but then you've got like Vince McMahon. You've got on the sidelines, you've got Shane McMahon as a special guest referee, and you've got Stephanie on the side. So it's like the corporate, like the Helmsley era against just against The Rock himself, and he's got to put up with all these distractions, and like the way that like Triple H pretty much controls it from the out, and then obviously you get like the glass shatters, and then like, Austin comes out, and like it gives the Rock a little bit of a helping hand there. I think
Yeah.
the Rock could have done it himself, but it helped that Austin was there.
Yeah.
And the culmination of that feud as well was awesome, and the ending of it as well was great.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, I mean SummerSlam 2002 against Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, that's an incredible match. That's a art basic.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of putting it. It is, because the story that they both tell in that match
Mm-hmm.
is just sublime. Like, you've got the prodigal son in HBK, Shawn Michaels, returning after 4 years out. His lifestyle's changed somewhat. He's like a born again Christian now, so he's not quite as like playboyish as he used to be, but he still retains that character to an extent, with like the whole thing of, someone threw him through a car window, but they can't quite tell who it was. And you've got Triple H saying, "No, I'll find out who it was, Shawn. Don't you worry." And then Shawn Michaels is on the time, go, "Oh, hang on, just let's just like pause the footage and then and then zoom in a bit. Oh, it's Triple H. Dun, dun, dun. Like classic kind of villain reveal again. And just the way that those guys told that story in that match, and the fact that there was a few. I did notice there was a few silly things in there, like when Triple H is just working Shawn Michaels back, because the whole thing is that Shawn Michaels has come back from having back surgery, so like he's like really focusing in on the back and selling it. And then 5 minutes later, Shawn Michaels does like he nips up and he's fine. It's like, oh, all right. I suppose at the time when I was watching, I was like, yeah, but now you think, not really. You just kind of forgot to sell that whole thing. But nitpick aside, it was amazing. And then just like the way that also like JR and King sell like the horror of what happens afterwards, when obviously Shawn Michaels wins, but then Triple H gets the sledgehammer and knocks him in the back twice, and then buggers off, and he's like laughing. Obviously, he's busted open, but he's laughing about it. And then like JR's like, they make it sound like it's real. Like, oh God, what a heinous human being. And even King, who's usually on the side of like the heels, even he's just like, oh my God, Triple H, he's a lowlife, what scumbag. And it's like, it really sort of highlighted the seriousness that they were trying to tell with that. So yeah, that is always going to be up there as one of the best as well. But anyway, how about yourself?
Obviously the Armageddon 19 street fight with
Yes, which I completely forgot about until you reminded me of a couple of days ago.
Has got to be up there as well on everybody's best, because if you really think about it, right, because Vince McMahon actually he beat Triple H on SmackDown for the title, and he didn't get it back until unforgiven, and then he would lose it again at Survivor Series, because he did the a whole horrible advertising of us and the triple threat, and everybody's like that. He's going off to have surgery on his neck. Or just basic or just basically losing his name Survivor Series in 1999, and obviously a big show, and I also in between the as they've got all the they've got all the build up a Triple H and basically a Orton is revenge,
Yeah.
basically, and it was elbow angle with if Stephanie is well, and it kind of other to the you. If the two of them are having an affair behind the scenes anyway. So what?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
because he was with he was with China for just before
yeah,
then, wasn't he? Like in real life, because that's obviously, she was
yeah,
coming out with him, like with his interests, and they sort of started a
yeah,
relationship through DX and stuff. And yeah, that's it. Yeah. I just I love the kind of like the transformation that Stephanie does, like because
oh yeah,
we're looking back on it because we're so used now after all these years to Stephanie
yeah,
being like, you know, without being too blunt, a bitch, like as the
yeah,
character herself. I mean, and just being this horrible, like, you
yeah,
just really can't stand her. And the sort of smarmy silver spoon fed penny. But looking back
yeah,
at that match there, she's got quite, she's got quite a I don't want to say plain, but plain kind of look going on, like, girl
yeah,
next door, she's just like, oh, daddy, daddy. But the transformation at the very end, and you see it in her eyes, it's like, that's Stephanie McMahon. And then literally like a few weeks later, she changes like her whole appearance to match the character. And
yeah.
it's just like, wow. But it works for her. Do you know what I mean? And you can tell that she really enjoys playing that kind of character. Maybe, I don't know everything about, what goes on behind the scenes, but maybe a lot of but we didn't have to try that hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there was probably a lot of that in her already,
Yeah, but as but as well, if you really you think about it, though, it's kind of all the Eddie Power and it during the corporate
Yeah, that's a
ministry
good point.
of his
Yeah.
will be a poet is basically either and McMahon's action at whole action he was
Yeah.
basically with is a favor it was basically the a favor and
It was his prime stooge, wasn't he? Yeah.
Taker. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, absolutely. So yeah, that's a good point because there's like you're saying about the seeds being sown, and that's what they
yeah,
did well back then. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like there was long-term storytelling.
yeah,
Whereas now it's like you could start a story and then they'll get bored of it
yeah,
6 weeks later and they'll just pretend like it never happened. You know what I mean? Like that
yeah,
leads me on to actually another Triple H match, well, series of
yeah,
matches. The first Undertaker match at WrestleMania, the WrestleMania 17.
yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Awesome match, right?
Mhm.
And I'll get onto like the details of it in a minute, but
Yeah,
it's almost like they completely ignore the fact that match ever happened when they like do the feud later on, like 10 years later,
yeah.
with the 27 and 28 matches, and it's like they're acting like they'd never faced each other at WrestleMania before. And I don't know if you
Yeah,
noticed this, but they never, well, at least I don't think they did. They didn't mention the WrestleMania 17 match at all. It was just like, oh, these two guys are it's like the biggest match of their careers and all this sort of
yeah.
stuff. It's like, hang on a minute.
Yeah, I've actually mentioned it on on SmackDown or Raw, but they included it an Undertaker's Hall of Fame packages, so you're like
Yeah,
that.
that's
So
right.
you're
Yeah.
so you're like that. So is that's canon or is it not? What
Yeah,
sort
exactly.
of
Is it
thing? Do
part
you
of
know what I
because they
mean?
obviously counted the first match as like because that was the first match that I noticed that they really started going on about Undertaker's streak.
Yeah,
So it was like, oh, the Undertaker has never lost at this sports entertainment spectacular. He's 8-0,
yeah,
and then he beat him, and then it was like, oh, now he's 9, and then that's when they really started
Yeah.
going with it. So then when he faced each other again, like 10 years, it was like 10, 11 years later.
Yeah.
Again, they just didn't really kind of acknowledge that. Oh, by the way, they faced each other 10 years ago, and Undertaker won. They didn't use that as like a build up because it's like, oh, Undertaker's already beaten you, so why are you then challenging him to break his streak when you've already lost? You know what I
mean? Yeah.
So that's what I mean about like long-term storytelling. Like they just don't really do that anymore, unfortunately. But hey ho.
Yeah, and I enjoy that myself, but I can also enjoy his cage match with Mankind at SummerSlam in 7 as well, because you don't as you don't hear people talk about that match too often. And it kind of frustrates me because I had the with the match to sit and watch because you've got the interference of China and on the outside the cage, and you've got and you've got Mankind doing the elbow drop, because do you remember do you remember on that Raw episode he was doing the and a view with AR, and to the home each of them Ivan off the roof of the of his house and stuff.
That's because Mick Foley was a nut job. You know what I mean? Like everything he did was real. You know what I mean? He just didn't care about his body at all. So that's a good shout. That because that was sort of another example of long-term storytelling with the two. It was them building up to what eventually would become like the Cactus Jack feud, and they revisit it and stuff like that. So that's a good one actually. I haven't watched that for a long time. I think I'll probably watch that tonight after this.
Also also as well the whole shotgun the whole shotguns after the
Shotgun Saturday,
actually if the
Undertaker
from Asian in the heart of New York.
Is that the one where he did the tombstone on the escalator?
Yeah.
That was when you could. That's when they did fun stuff like that back then, man. Like when they call it a street fight now, it's like there's no streets involved. It's just outside the ring. You know what I mean? They don't actually go outside anymore. So again, that was like one of the last times they really kind of, well, not last times, but one of the times they used to do that kind of thing. So I haven't actually seen that whole match in ages. I just always remember the escalator spot.
It's actually on the hidden. It's actually on the hidden gem section, and then
hidden gems. Okay, cool.
It's actually in the hidden gems. Yes. Was the to up semi-finals match, but in Triple H and the Undertaker from 96. Actually,
96. Wow.
Actually was the very first match Undertaker and Triple H ever had. Is over in
Wow. That's cool.
So so basically the very first time didn't actually take pill didn't actually take pill. He's on American soil, so it's
No,
so
no, it's ironic, isn't it?
um so back so back so back in so when is enjoyable but is all is a pretty good experience to try and get a kit, but obviously yeah it was on to them but and
Yeah, man.
actually
Yeah, feeling my age now.
well
No,
yeah
to be fair, I don't really remember much of it anyway. But yeah, I would have been 96. Yeah, I was 10 at the time, but that was probably when I first started getting into it. Like when I first started watching it, it was it must have been around about 10, 11.
yeah
Like when the Attitude Era was properly taken off and stuff like that. So yeah,
yeah
maybe a little bit maybe a little bit after 96.
yeah
Yeah, yeah,
um but but so other matches as well that I enjoy the own heart match from WrestleMania 14 as well and as well because you've got good because you've got good because you've got a good storyline yeah because is the whole situation of own hearts uh, um uh, um and will be he gets better up during the match because China and Liverpool each kept it in the baseball bat
yeah,
on hitting it so yeah so that gets better up constantly and there's a lot of inner psychology something that you don't see something that you don't see too much of is is as the current so and to be honest it's all about kicking out it's all about
that's what.
kicking
Yeah,
out
finisher. There's
yeah
there's like you say, there's no story, and that is a great example of great ring psychology, and that again
yeah
sort of emphasizes just how good Triple H was at telling stories in the ring.
yeah
Whether he was the bad guy, which was most of the time, but even when he was a good guy as well, because like I'm going to be going back and forward with like time frames, so just
yeah
bear with
same
me.
here
Yeah, but like again, going back to like when you take all that psychology when he's a villain, but also like with the WrestleMania 27 match with the Undertaker, where
yeah
he's like at the point, and they're both technically like faces, aka good guys at this time,
yeah
but he's still using a little bit of like villainous like tactics to get the job done. Like,
yeah
he's using the steel chair, he's about to use the sledgehammer, and even him, like, he's just like pleading with the Undertaker. He's just like, "Stay down, please, just stay down. What's wrong with you? Like, how much more
yeah
beating you want me to give you? Like, I'm begging you, just please stay down." And then, like, the way
yeah
when the Undertaker kicks out of the tombstone that Triple H gives him,
yeah
and the way that Triple H sort of recoils, like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
yeah
It's just the it just tells such a great story. Like that again, like we say, it doesn't. They don't really do that anymore these days. But those two were like the last sort of bastions of great storytelling in the ring, with Shawn Michaels as well, obviously. Um, Yeah. So, but now you get, like you say, you don't get that. And then going back to what you're saying about the ring psychology
Yeah,
with those two, especially with him and Owen Hart, they were ring generals at that
yeah,
time. And with everything going on with Owen Hart, with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, sort of like almost running parallel to that as well. So you had like a family of storytelling in those feuds, and it's like often gets overlooked, but it's so well done the way that sort of came to be back then.
yeah,
I think also it's just like they're just not patient enough anymore to do that. It's like, oh, what's gonna
yeah,
what's gonna stir the crowd? Oh, we'll just like jump really high over some ropes. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And do loads of flips and kicks, and it's like, no, but that doesn't. It looks impressive. I'm not going to take anything away from them, their athleticism,
yeah.
but it doesn't tell a good story. It just shows what you can do rather than like, the story of the match and like what you're trying to accomplish.
Because I mean, because I mean, because what or that about getting 5 stars of some of some yeah, that's getting no idea or the studies meant to be a hobby.
Now, Daniel, are you referring to someone in particular there? Maybe who's a bit of a melt.
Yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree with you. He is a bloody melt. No, because you think, okay, there's a couple of arguments you can take with this, right? So, someone like him, who is basically a wrestling commentator / reviewer / insider, right? Just give another hint. And yet but he has no idea of like, okay, you can have an idea, like us as fans, you can have an idea of what is good wrestling and what isn't good wrestling. But he takes it to an extreme where it's just like his opinion is like the kind of like the benchmark of what like good wrestling is. And it's like it's always based with him. It's always based on how many flips someone can do in the bloody air, rather than actually, if someone actually is like, because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, sports entertainment, but it's still called wrestling. You still have wrestling. You still have wrestling in the name, no matter what promotion it is. Like WWE, it's still World Wrestling Entertainment. AEW is still All Elite Wrestling, right? So the wrestling does help in this situation. So so you've got someone like him who's just like thinks he's the expert on like 6-star matches and all this crap. There's no idea about what he's never done it himself, right? So then you've got the other side of the argument where you've then got like really, I don't know, like they're really soppy in the kind of, some of the wrestlers in the business are like, oh, we know no one can possibly give a critique on wrestling because you've never wrestled. It's like, well, yeah, you can. Like you can review it. So it's the other extreme. So you've got him, and then you've got like the idiots in the actual business themselves. One saying, yeah, this is the ultimate wrestling match and this is how it should be based on. And then you've got like, bloody snowflakes who actually are in the wrestling business going, well, you can't have an opinion because you're not a part of it. It's like, no, it needs to be a happy medium somewhere, surely. So anyway, sod him.
I just actually felt I'd actually bring that up because as I think there so as I put much or and has opinion and has opinion rather than opinion a personality character or being able to construct a match properly. Eh,
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, you know, you've got the wrestling part of it, but then you've got the entertainment part of it as well.
yeah,
And you know, like again, bringing it back to Triple H, he could do both very well.
yeah,
And again, he was that kind of character where he's got the moves, he studied the game. You know, he's a lot of it was based on like you know Bruno Sammartino and
yeah,
guys of that ilk, and like he sort of like ring generals who knew what to do, but also to sell the story of the feud in the actual ring.
yeah,
So you know he was like a master of that, and again, like we say, there's just not enough. Okay, and he's you know with Triple H is like he's trying to cultivate that with NXT, or at least he was trying to cultivate that with NXT.
yeah,
You know, with guys like Tommaso Ciampa and Walter and Johnny Gargano and guys like that. They
yeah,
you know he's trying to find that next like batch of Triple H essentially.
yeah,
But it's just a shame that obviously, you know, that his health has sort of impeded that recently. But
yeah,
I think that he's still very much because I'm assuming you watched like the interview he did where he declared that was
yeah.
and but there was a little bit of hope because the guy asked him like, you know, you still going to be doing like the NXT stuff, and he's like, that's the plan. So as long as he's sort of still there, and you've got guys like him and the Undertaker as well as another example, like trying to like you know cultivate the new crop of wrestlers, you know, male and female, then you know
Yeah,
you're in good hands. But again, you've got the senile old goat at the top who's sort of
yeah,
like restricting that somewhat still.
mhm.
So yeah, it's definitely it's definitely an interesting point of where it's going to go in the future.
But obviously is I enjoyed the backlash 2000 match for obvious
Yes.
reasons. The old cameo and stuff like that as well because because it just added to the drama of it, but as well I
Yeah.
enjoyed as as well I enjoyed the um and 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 judgment matches well Iron Man matches well because that was
Oh,
on
yeah.
because that is on the second ever Iron Man match, and I actually prefer and I actually prefer the judgment Iron
Same
Man
here.
and to the um to the WrestleMania um to the WrestleMania um over Iron Man match it's a probable I'll get have a reason for that and he has to either WrestleMania as either WrestleMania um, 11 Iron Man is overrated, but that's a totally different story. But
Yeah, that could be the
um,
next one. Overrated matches.
but but in terms of the um but in terms of the judgment, he actually had he had put on a gear for
Yeah.
Hawkum, it's all is surprises me because he wasn't all that um um on for his submission holds apart from the apart from the occasional
Sharpshooter, yeah. Yeah, that's it. And again, and he never really used it again after that, did he? Or at least he didn't use it very often, and it became more of
Yeah,
a. It was just like, he did the spine buster, a couple of DDTs, couple of slaps, yeah, the occasional sharpshooter, like you say, and then like a big elbow drop, and that was it. But he was
yeah,
great. So yeah, we sort of overlooked that because he was so bloody charismatic, The Rock.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good shout. I was going to say, going back to Backlash 2000, how like when Austin made his cameo and stuff, and there was even then, okay, maybe I'm being a bit too kind or generous to WWE here in terms of their creative, but
yeah,
even that was kind of like a seed of what was to come with like the Austin Triple H feud the following year,
yeah.
because they were all sort of intertwining with each other, and then you've got the whole thing of Austin getting run over, and you don't know.
Oh
And obviously,
yeah,
in real life, it was because he had to have neck surgery anyway. So they thought, how are we going to
yeah,
write it out? Oh, we'll get someone to run him over, and you don't find out until at least, well, at first, with just before No Mercy, you think it's Rikishi, and it turns out, which is so bloody stupid. Like, why of all people would
yeah,
you choose Rikishi to do something like that?
yeah,
Like, he's a dancing Samoan, jovial kind of dude, and it's like, yeah, there's heel
yeah,
turns, and then there's just stupid, and that was stupid. So I think maybe Vince thought, yeah, this isn't going to work. We need to think of something else here. And then obviously they thought, right, let's have Triple H be the mastermind behind it, and it made sense.
but um, um, on terms of the judgment, actually, he saw the return of the under,
Yeah,
who had
as
um,
as
who
the
had who had actually in absence since the SmackDown since the SmackDown right, but what unforgiven in in and of course Judgment Day 2000 during the Iron Man match was AP with the Erican Badass character. So that's the very first. So that's the that's the very first appearance of the American Badass character, but unfortunately, it's to the Rock getting a skill
yeah
Asian. So by that point, it's get even more he
yeah
and
exactly.
a point.
Yeah, because you think, oh my god, because that was crazy when that happened. Because obviously, yeah, like you were saying, when because he was injured before then, like on the SmackDown you were talking about, and
Yeah,
even then, back then, like around that time, '99, the Undertaker was contemplating retirement after that
yeah,
because he was just like, I'm taking too many bumps, man. And this was only like 9 years and nine. I say only, but compared to
yeah,
what he would go on to do, like only nine
yeah,
years into his career.
mhm,
And then, but then it's amazing how sometimes you think, right, just take a break, rehab, and then change
yeah,
up the character. So when he came back, it was just kind of like you had like the dung, he's here, and it's like, what the hell's going on? And then you
yeah,
see some big, massive dude coming down in a motorcycle. I'm like, oh shit, it's the Undertaker. Like, what happened? What happened to like the dead man stuff? It was like, because at first I
yeah,
was a bit like, oh, I don't know, I like this, I like the dead man stuff, but then
yeah,
he showed more of himself, and he showed that actually he can talk. and he needed that gap to sort of progress back into the El character. But yeah, like you say, they ended up with a disqualification for The Rock because, like, you know, Undertaker just goes and beats the crap out of the McMahon Helmsley regime. But then, then he ends up in a DQ. So it's like no one really wins, but at least someone got, at least, you know, the Undertaker came back and, like, you know, battered. So you almost have like an ally for The Rock finally, kind of. At that time, anyway, you know. So that was a big moment in that year, and it just sort of, as 2000, 2000 was one of the better years, I think, around that kind of time, because it was, again, it was like a stepping off from like the old school, and they're coming more into like, okay, it's sort of halfway through the Attitude Era, I suppose you could say. And then the whole build up with Triple H and Austin, and then, you know, that where that went, which I'll get into in a bit. I think, to summarize, I think it started off well, and then I didn't really like how it ended. But anyway, that's we'll see how that goes on anyway.
I mean, but like as well, awesome, but I think on the Tidum storytelling and the Summer Slam 2000 in event, because I think our angle is supposed to align with Stephanie, but backstage to a H was like that. No,
it's not happening.
When you do that, so it's on the. So there's a convoluted build up and the triple threat match, and the triple threat match was okay, but it was just the build up that and to that main event with this convoluted because of the backstage politics.
And okay, so speaking of backstage politics, you have to say, you know, going with the King of Kings, Triple H was a master at that. You know, he married the boss's daughter in real life, IRL. Let's not forget. And he just like went. You know, you talk about like, okay, again, I'm skipping ahead a bit. Like the whole the reign of terror from like 2002 to like 2004, where he was literally just handed the World Heavyweight Championship by Eric Bischoff.
By Eric Bischoff,
Yeah. And then that was it. He just literally beat everyone who challenged him until someone with even more burial power than him came along. Okay, maybe a little bit later on, but you know what I mean. John Cena. And Hogan. Yeah, of course. But yeah, so there were, overall, I've got a lot of respect for Triple H for what he's done in the business, what he's done for the business. But there was that period of time where it was just like, oh my God, like how is anyone gonna like flourish with him? Because he's just like, no, not putting you over. I'm not putting you over. Booker T, God, leave it out, mate. You know, do you know what I mean? That was that WrestleMania match was terrible.
Yeah, and the whole build up as well. Because it was people like you who don't get a world champion, and you're
and it was just like, oh dear, we're going down that route, are we? Oh no.
And you're just sitting, and you're just sitting thinking to yourself, right, so Booker, he has to over Triple H in this match now, because of the whole because of the whole racism stigma and storyline.
Yeah, you would have thought so, but then what happened? No, no, Triple H won anyway.
And
It's just like, oh dear, that was definitely a blot on that.
and that was is the pedigree in the 20 seconds before all the pin, and you're like that. Oh my!
Wow, that's like that's a proper burial, isn't it? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I know like Vince had his like thing with WWE. Oh God, something just flashed up in my brain again about something, but that's far along in line. But the whole WWE, yeah, we beat WCW, so you know we're going to prove that WWE is superior by having WWE guys always beat former WCW guys. And then it was, I suppose that was probably Vince's thought about it. Like, you know, yeah, you're in my company now, and my WWE loyalists are always gonna overcome you, which would be mirrored many years later with Triple H versus Sting, which, in my opinion, was it had so much potential, and Sorry, folks, we're going to be doing like a positive and a negative thing just to give it a bit of balance to the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, go on.
But the whole Generation X and about the oath and during the match enjoyed, but
that was right.
But it was the whole soul, but it was the whole soul. It's hammer on a and was for the and a bowl.
Yeah.
You're thinking, oh my God, here comes this awful again.
Yeah, that's it. Here comes yeah. This was again, it was Vince's way of like providing the ultimate burial over WCW. It's like, come on, you won 20 years ago. Get over it. It's fine. You won. You bought WCW. Everything's with you now, right? Let it go. No. Oh God. I mean, personally, I thought bringing Sting in it was about 10 years too late. Anyway, to be quite honest with you, but it was still great to see him. You know, he's flourishing in AEW now, isn't he? At nearly bloody 60 odd years old. So fair play to him. But that he should have at least won that. Okay, if you put Seth Rollins over him later, fine, because he's putting over a younger upcoming to a degree talent. But Triple H didn't need that win. Do you know what I mean? It was just so unnecessary. It's like, come on, man. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'll try to like hone in on like some positives as well in a bit again. But yeah, it just mirrors what you said before.
But he's actually if Sean kills us at the Royal enjoyed this basic kill. Yeah, and I think people judge that a bit harshly.
Yeah.
Because nobody stood up after the count, but in terms of the actual match as an overall match, I find it enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was nothing wrong with it. It was decent. It was a bit like the I think obviously, I mean, it had a lot. Probably maybe because it had a lot to live up to following that SummerSlam match, but 2002.
Yeah.
But then the same could be said about the Hell in a Cell match they had as well.
Yeah.
Bad Blood. I think it was 2004.
And
that was great. I mean, the only thing I would complain about is Triple H wearing white boots. Just no. Sorry, that just did not work.
Horrible.
Yeah, it was like he was wearing socks. It just didn't look right at all, did it? I mean, being purely aesthetically, yeah. But yeah, that was a decent match. But again, it doesn't get because it wasn't as, I suppose, because of the occasion of the SummerSlam 2002 match was so big because obviously you had Shawn Michaels returning, blah blah blah. So yeah, but I think that gets like a raw deal. But you know, I suppose there's certain feuds that deserve a raw deal, like
Oh no,
Like, Honor, if you hear me.
this got this got I forget the
Sorry, I had to remind you of that, didn't I?
yeah, actually recommended me to watch both matches, and oh my god, oh,
Excuse me. I've got a cold, by the way, so
horrible.
apologies. But yeah, oh man, yeah. I mean, oh, I mean, who in their right mind would think that Scott Steiner would be at like main event level anyway? No offense, but come on. Anyway,
Yeah.
but Jesus wept. Like, oh yeah, it was just awful. I mean, yeah, and at that point, Triple H was at his like, he was at the height of his like roidy kind of self anyway. So then you get like another roided freak like Scott Steiner. You put them two together, and the fact that they literally like didn't even move, like they barely moved. They couldn't move because they were on so many fucking steroids. Pardon my French. So many bloody steroids. So it was just like, oh my god, this is. It's like watching boulders clash. You know, it was terrible.
And to make my and to make matters Oscar is in um 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 is in oh how unpredictable I can eating out that's especially
Yes.
on he always alpha them yeah actually Bobby he's a girl he's chatting for a poet's home
Yeah, exactly.
a home match.
Which is ironic considering, okay, for those of you who don't know, I think in that match, obviously Triple H was the bad guy and Scott Steiner was the good guy. But everyone thought it was very much like, it was like go away heat, wasn't it? You know, like Roman Reigns had a lot of that before he became tribal chief, obviously. But it was that kind of like, no one wants to see you. no, we're just gonna cheer for the bad guy, and hopefully that sends a message to be like, no one wants you because
and that's
you're on drugs.
man, and a special, because he's part of, he's responsible for them, for of them on trails, Uja,
Yeah, exactly, which made it even more weird. You know what I mean? Yeah, because he was. That's actually a good talking point, actually. Yeah, because he was okay. Because I've always heard conflicting stories about this. So one thing I've heard was that it was basically Triple H's idea. Like it was him responsible for pushing the whole. Right, well, if Bret Hart says he's going to go to WCW, then Solid will just screw him. Then I've heard another thing, which was like Triple H listened in on what was going on, but it wasn't his idea directly. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably somewhere in between.
Yeah, but yeah, but his hands aren't cool. You need it, and
No.
either either was fans can in or Survivor Series in 7 hello a poet behind the scenes is involved.
Yeah, he helped screw over your hometown hero, and yet you'll still chant for him over Scott Steiner. What does that say about Scott Steiner?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny, man. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, so I was going to say, like, in terms of different aspects of him as like a character, like entrance music, for example. I think, I mean, I'll go on to like later ones in a minute, but the My Time entrance music for me scared the hell out of me as a kid, because not because it was like dark or like in a kind of a horror way, but it was that kind of, that entrance was like, oh shit, the bad man's coming. Do you know what I mean? It was like, what's up? Is this on? and then you have like the lights flickering off and on. You see him coming out. He's got his hair down over his face. He's got the water. It was just like, it was so ominous. And looking back on it now, I think as much as I love Motorhead, but I still preferred the My Time one because it felt scarier, if that makes sense. Because it was like, like I say, like the bogey, like the bad nasty man's about to come out now, and that's how I sort of saw him when I was a kid.
That is obviously our favourite Triple H miserable.
Nice.
Because but it was, in my opinion, and more consistent on a more consistent basis, the 2099 2000 version of Triple H was the best version, because all his best matches happened in the time period for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, that again, that it was that sort of time where I started getting into it. And okay, like the Motorhead thing was okay. It was more of like a grandiose kind of entrance. Like, okay, this is the sort of thing that, is only really, when you get like actual proper, not like the in-house music that WWE make, but when you get like a proper big band, like Motorhead or like Alter Bridge for Edge kind of thing. You know that these are like, solidified like legends in the business. But the My Time music for me, it complemented his character better because it was that ominous. And like you say, that's when he did have his, like, I would agree with you, his best. Okay, he had a couple of great ones later on, but like that time period for me was like, that was his time. Literally, it was his time. And he just he knocked it out of the park, and especially then when he had like Stephanie coming out with him, and for me the two of them worked really well together because you had him coming out with like looking all mean, and then you had Stephanie kind of like that, like the sort of he's my man, and what are you going to do about it kind of thing, and she kind of shone with that music as well. So I just I think the two of them like were amazing. Not so much 20 years later with the whole authority crap, but then.
Oh Jesus! You had to bring up the authority.
Sorry, we are covering his career, I suppose. So we keep bouncing.
Yeah.
Just things fresh in my mind, like, oh, that reminds me of that, but later on, and not as good.
But my God, the authority, that was that was actually a slog to get through every Monday. I mean, I probably should be an institution for putting myself through that.
Yeah, and that oh God, the thing is, it started off kind of intriguing me because it's like, all right, they're basically doing they're trying to basically make like a new like Mr. McMahon versus Stone Cold kind of thing with the Authority and Daniel Bryan, blah blah blah. But it was just like, oh my God, it just got to the point where it was like every single week you could telegraph it, right? Every Raw between like, I think it was mainly like between like 2015 or maybe even before then, I think it was, wasn't it? Like between like 2014
2013. Because remember, it's the after Randy Orton cashed in on Brian after he beat because remember Triple H with
he turned on him, didn't he? Yeah.
Because remember Triple H was a special guest referee, and as soon as Randy Orton comes out of the briefcase, he comes around into a pedigree that's how that whole story and started.
Yes, no, you're right. I just can't believe it was 2013, man. Where that was what 9 years ago now.
Yep,
Jesus Christ.
yep,
But yeah,
and
like yeah, and if okay, so that was the catalyst of that kind of that storyline, and they were capitalizing on the fact that Daniel Bryan, this someone that Vince McMahon would never actually push really, but the crowd had to sort of change his mind because they were really behind him. So you've got this kind of indie wrestler, the underdog, and then yeah, and obviously Triple H being like like the sort of authority figure at the time now that he's like CEO of the company. Hello, Wend. Yay. Hello, Chris, as well. Just noticed your comments there. Sorry, I'm just getting too into it.
yeah, same here.
Yeah. What was I saying? Yeah. So you think, okay, cool. All right. So they're kind of doing another Mr. McMahon Stone Cold thing. So obviously Stone Cold was you could believe he would put up a bit more of a fight because he was a brawler and he's a bit bigger, and Daniel Bryan was a little bit smaller, but he had agility on his side and he had the crowd on his side.
Yeah.
But it just went on too long. Like it was just like every week the Raw would start off the same way, and it was a 15-minute promo with Triple H and Stephanie talking about, yeah, by the way, he's a B+ player. Nah, we're in charge here, and he's never going to go. Okay, fine. Next week, oh, here they come again. Yeah, he's a B+ player, and yeah, nah, we're the authority. I was like, okay, we fucking get it. Sorry, we get it. Like, come on. So, yeah, I mean, I was quite surprised that Triple H put Daniel Bryan over at WrestleMania 30. I had a feeling that it was going to be some sort of thing where he'd be like, no, I'm still not putting him over. But fair play to him, he did. But at the same time, it was a bit like, yeah, I would not be surprised if after all of that, it was that he would just be like, no, I'm going to beat you in the first match, and then I'll put myself in the main event.
Yeah. Because as I thought build up to that whole and I thought never build up to that whole WrestleMania. I thought Brian is gonna get buried again. It's like, oh God, he's gonna get buried again.
Yeah.
And you can just
Actually, I suppose I was quite surprised because like the whole like when he took over Raw, like that was great. You know, I mean, that was really okay. They're actually even Vince like behind the scenes is finally getting on board with like this is what the crowd want.
Yeah.
Because they called an audible because obviously that year when Batista won the Royal Rumble and like no one really wanted him. No one really wanted him there. Poor Batista, because I did like him like in the early part of his career, but he just came down. He just came in at the wrong place at the wrong time, but like, well, right place, wrong time.
Yeah.
Because everyone was fully behind Daniel Bryan. I don't even think he realised it at the time until he won it, and then he was just like, "What? Why the fuck are you getting me to win it? Why don't you get him to win it? Because that's who they want." So even he was like, "This is who you should be pushing, not me." So fair play to Batista for that.
And again, that's a whole separate stream. Is Batista.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going off topic. Sorry.
It's all right because I was just going to say that's another good stream you can do in the future because Batista actually got actually actually a bad deal during that time period.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like he has so much. Even now, like that, he's a movie star. Like you still see him talking about the Undertaker and Triple H and like Brock Lesnar and stuff. And he's like, he's got a lot of respect for those guys, which is nice to hear because they were a big part of pushing him as well. So it's good to see that he's still kind of got, even though now, okay, technically he's retired, but himself, but he's got a passion for the business still now. You know what I mean?
And basically, he's returning 2002 MSG is amazing.
Oh,
Out the
yeah.
reaction,
Oh, do
probably,
you know what? I remember that. I remember
yeah,
watching that live. My mum gone to bed. I was
yeah,
just like, right, I'm going to stay up and watch this. Had the lights all out. And then just hearing that, done, time to play the game. And then it was because obviously, okay, when he went out injured, he was still a bad guy, right? But
yeah,
when they were showing the packages, like the video clips of him recovering his, because it was a quad injury, wasn't it? Was it a quad or was it his thigh?
yeah. Yeah, but it's a order injury because
Yeah,
but remembering that episode that was a 6 month and I
that's right.
Jericho has him in the also Jericho on top
Yes,
of
that's it. It was
him
Jericho, was yeah,
and
yeah.
stable and then and and then that's how he wore his
That's right. Yeah, because then you see him
what.
hobbling off afterwards. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll just cheers, Specs. You just complimented my cat.
Yeah,
um,
and yeah, and yeah, yeah, and that's actually is who the who was talked
oh yes,
about.
of course, yes, it is. Yeah, I thought I'd recognise the
Oh,
avatar. Yeah, nice one, dude.
so on to a and he posted to and he posted to the stream in for us. So
Oh, nice
thanks
one.
for
Thank you.
joining us. But just but just the a whole crowd to the reaction
Yes, yeah. Going back to
was
that.
amazing.
Yeah, it was because, and honestly, it's probably not since maybe Stone Cold at
Yeah,
Unforgiven 99, I think, with the six
yeah,
pack challenge
yeah,
with him and The Rock. So The Rock comes out and he
yeah,
gets a huge ovation. And then
yeah,
Austin comes out and then because he's like the special enforcer.
yeah,
And then like he gets like I would say it's probably the same, but JR goes, Rock got an ovation, but this is an ovation. But I think they were both the same. But
yeah,
I hadn't really heard anything like that until Triple H's return at Madison Square Garden. And it was
yeah,
just like he just looked the effing business. You know what I mean? Like with his
yeah,
denim jacket, and he was proper just like, "Yeah, I'm fucking back." You know what I mean? And it was like, it was such a great moment because you could see in his face, genuinely, he was so happy to be back. Because
yeah,
let's face it, from say like early '99, maybe late, maybe I'll say maybe mid '99
yeah,
to 2001 when he got injured, he was the man. Right, and I mean,
yeah,
a lot was going on about The Rock and Austin, and yeah, cool, yeah, they were there, but
yeah,
they, The Rock was about to leave for Hollywood.
yeah,
Austin's career was sort of winding. I mean, he was still mega white hot in terms of like reactions and stuff, but his injuries were catching up with him, so he was sort of
yeah,
limiting what he was doing. But Triple H was just still like, I can still go for like 20 years if I want to, and then he had that injury. And it
yeah,
was like, oh man. And then for him to come back and then have all the feuds he had after then. Okay, I don't think. Okay, the only thing that annoyed me about that was like Stephanie going with Jericho. I thought that was a bit silly. It's like, oh right, you can line yourself with Jericho, all right, and then not
See,
later on.
see the thing that annoys me about that, and I'm getting, and I'm getting off
Cheers.
up, and I'm getting, and I'm getting off topic here for this, uh,
No, that's right. I've been doing that most of the stream. Sorry.
Just a second. Yeah, the thing is that annoys me. He spent the he spent the entirety the build up to Engines 2000 on Airfield. He building up Jericho. You haven't beat the two best so as to um, other as in my opinion on the same right to unify both of the titles, and yet the end it becomes so first from the McMahon and
Yeah,
like that
the
that is
only,
stupid.
yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of is if they were having some weird like three-way relationship behind the scenes. But other
Yeah,
than that, I mean, I don't know. But I mean, it's kind of like that's the kind of vibe I was getting. Like it
yeah,
was a bit of a weird one, wasn't it?
mm,
Yeah, and then like you say, to have him like do the beating Rock and Stone Cold and Chris Jericho, that is beating Rock and Stone Cold the same night.
yeah,
Yeah, and then basically Triple H comes back, and then a month later he's like, "Oh well, I can beat you." You know what I mean? Beats him, and then
yeah,
then you get the whole kind of, and then the Hogan feud comes into it, and then that's where it kind of falls down a little bit. Which is why I'm kind of glad they, he had some really good like babyface hero like heat, I suppose, for a couple of months. But we know really where his true his true commodities lie, and that's being a horrible villain. And I'm glad that they did the whole thing with Shawn Michaels eventually, which obviously goes
yeah,
back to
and
an evolution.
yeah, and I suppose he's my actual or I don't know yeah 2000 was well
Yeah.
um as a it I can remember he was forced to put his WrestleMania a shot on the
Oh, that's right.
on
Yeah,
the
the contendership.
thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So that was yeah, and I actually I actually kind of feel sorry for Triple H. Well, both Triple H and Chris Jericho, really,
Yeah,
for that WrestleMania because they had to follow The Rock and Hulk Hogan, and
yeah.
you're like, mm, yeah, maybe you
Actually,
should swap that unless I'm misremembering that and they were on before. I can't remember.
yeah, um, Eric on Triple H will have them in event for
It
the
was, wasn't it? Yeah.
show, yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. So I'm
But,
like,
but, yeah, but I can terms of actual inner and psychology, the match is pretty good,
yeah,
um, but um, um, unfortunately, um, unfortunately, how do you for all what give else is Hogan? It just doesn't it just doesn't make sense. So that was
no,
a poor so that was a poor choice to put that on last.
yeah. And you know what? That reminds me of another main event that Triple H was in that we
Yeah,
probably shouldn't have been because it followed a classic, WrestleMania
yeah,
25, where he
yeah,
was him and Randy Orton in the main. I see, and I'm not like disrespecting Triple H here. Again, it's coming from a place of love because
yeah,
of what he's been through for the business, and we're doing this tribute for him.
yeah.
However, once again, at that time anyway, it's like, okay, so you haven't learned from your mistake from WrestleMania 18, where you're headlining after Rock and Hogan, just because, okay, all right, it's a title match. So
Yeah,
traditionally, the title match should main event. However, you can kind of call an audible on these things. So, like,
yeah,
okay, that was a mistake with Triple H and Jericho trying to follow Rock and Hogan. You get to WrestleMania 25, literally like 10, 12, 13 years later.
yeah.
You have the instant
I
classic that is The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. One
yeah,
of,
I need
if
to
not the greatest matches of all time.
I need to repeat the same mistake.
Only even worse because, in my opinion, I don't know about you, but I think Randy Orton is terribly overrated, and I've never really got into him that much.
Hold on, and
Okay,
it,
well,
here's the point I can mention. I
well, this is good.
actually,
It's fun that we don't agree on everything.
um, um, I actually enjoy the and the Orton, but the problem as though it's and he's it's and he's on his A in basically he is a fantastic performer, but it's and he's in but it's and he but it's and he wants to put on a show. Obi, basically, that is my only way to right from but I do enjoy Randy Orton as a whole. Basically, yeah, I think he's a
We'll agree to disagree on that one. Then I think I don't know, man. I just like I didn't mind his Legend Killer stuff, but like
yeah,
I don't know. I just never saw what so many other people saw in him. Just to me, it's just like,
yeah,
oh, let's just bore everyone by putting someone in a wrist lock for 10 minutes,
yeah,
and then we'll just go back and forth, and then I'll just do this, and then I'll just like do like a poor man's deep diamond cutter as my finisher. Oh, but that's just my that's just my opinion. Like
my,
no, don't get me wrong, he has had some good matches, but in my opinion, it's because of the other people he's facing. But he's
and
right, he's gone for so long, so But I just, I mean,
and it's a artist back. That's my
mhm.
favorite, and they
That was good. That for me was
so,
probably his best match, I think, because it was like, okay, this is a good match. He showed he could like hang with like legends, and it wasn't like in the ring with John Cena for like 350th time. But yeah,
oh,
no, I mean, I'd put him. I'd still prefer him over John Cena,
oh,
but only a little
don't,
bit.
don't talk to me about, that guy's so shit. It's unbelievable.
Yes, yeah. No, that we definitely agree on. Yeah, he's the most overrated wrestler ever. Ever.
Yeah,
And I saw something on Twitter the other day. I think it was you probably follow this as well. Wrestle Ops, and there was like
yeah.
it was like a thing of John Cena has the most wins in WWE history, 1,786. I'm like, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. I swear Hulk Hogan only had like 500 matches ever.
Yeah.
That must be including like dark matches, like on non-televised matches for people who don't know the lingo,
Yeah.
and random like live events that don't get televised and stuff. Because there was that time where between about 2006 and 2009, he just didn't lose ever. Oh, that was Chris. That was sort of it was
Yeah.
a weird one. He was still Hollywood Hogan,
Yeah.
but the crowd kind of turned in his favor
Yeah.
and then changed him from Hollywood Hogan back to Hulk Hogan. That makes sense.
Again, that was down to an unpredictable Canadian killer out
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Because because for all intents and purposes, up until when it's funny as well because like the Raw before that WrestleMania, when
Oh
Hogan
yeah,
comes out,
enough.
you hear JR going, "He's a sick, despicable human being," and
Yeah,
then
it's
like
my
obviously he gets that crowd reaction,
it's
and then
my
the Raw, he's just like, "It's Hulk Hogan, what of respect." Hi Lee.
yeah, and he um yeah, and he smashes the truck right into the ambulance
Yeah.
with
So hang on a
the
minute.
truck.
So like he's just like 2 episodes before, he's basically tried to essentially commit murder against his opponent, right? And yet, a week later, it's Hogan, he's fine. No, we'll just forget that happened, shall we? And even The Rock himself was like, "Oh, you did try to run me over, but because we had a good match and the crowd really loved it, that's fine." Some of the plot is some of these little things in wrestling is very similar to, dare I say it, certain television programs we also watch,
Yeah,
but not quite as bad as that at the moment. But you know what I mean? It's like when it's really good, you kind of leave the little inconsistencies behind because you're like, okay, the rest of it the entertainment value makes up for it, but you can still see the plot holes somewhere.
Yeah, but but by the time back as to 2000 rolled around, Triple H's run is getting a bit sort of stale, and
Yeah.
and a whole sort of Hulk Hogan nostalgia. Nobody gave a shit over in back kill. Ask him.
Yeah, no, it kind of lasted for about a month, and then everyone was like, "Oh, hang on, the Undertaker's really cool right now. Let's just hope he beats Hogan instead." Because he went from being like, the big evil gimmick where he was still like the biker version of the Undertaker, but he was a nastier, proper like biker gang version of him at that point.
Yeah.
And it was funny, like, because of his reputation, even as nasty as the Undertaker got, he still got such a massive ovation from the crowd because they were like, "Yeah, well, we're never going to boo you because you're the Undertaker." You know what I mean? So like, even when he was bad, he was still like cheered for, which is kind of cool. Like Triple H towards the end of his career, like he would just get massive ovations because of the respect that people have for him. Okay, usually he played the villain, but at a certain point, you just respect them, because of how long they've been there and how much they've done for the business.
Yeah. But by that point as well, just go back to being a heel again.
Yeah.
So and the whole sort of and the whole build up to King of the Ring as well is a bit convoluted as well, because obviously he gets his title rematch with he gets his title match with the Undertaker, but as his making his way down the inside, he gets stopped by Shawn Michaels the end.
Yeah.
So, like after that pay-per-view, that was a general and for SummerSlam, and Kevin Nash or his odds for the 900.
Kevin bloody Nash. He was right as Diesel. He was right as Big Daddy V. Well, no, not Big Daddy V. That was maybe Big Daddy Diesel. Oh God, yeah. It was. Do you know what? Right, that's just put my brain back to the whole the CM Punk feud, where he got Kevin Nash involved and decided, all right, okay, this is going to be good, isn't it? But it wasn't really. But like going back to what you were saying, yeah, that's an interesting thing about how that would have been the original plan, because that probably would have been better, to be honest. But but then it ended up being what we got with SummerSlam 2002, which was just a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So I mean, into there's loads of other matches as well, but the SummerSlam 1999, your Stone Cold Pill is backstage politics as well. It was actually supposed to put Triple H over in that triple threat match, but it ended up he pinned Triple H, and then
Yeah.
And then he dropped to Triple H the next night on.
Yeah, the next night. Yeah, literally the next night. I'm like, oh wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's like Triple H learned how to backstage politic from Stone Cold. Because as much praise as we heap on Stone Cold, he was very much a backstage politician as well.
Yeah.
one of the most powerful ones.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, just ask if Jarrett.
Yeah. We ended up nicking his wife off him in the end as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, bloody hell. Yeah, there was a lot of that going on back then, wasn't there? It was quite an incestuous company at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was just like back and forth between each other. Yeah, it was it was the end of the 90s. Everyone was getting drunk and on drugs. You know what I mean? It was one of those. It was a wild time back then.
What did you think of the Easter match at 35? Because that's his very own.
Yes, it was.
Last match. What did you actually think?
It was. There were hallmarks of what made the two characters great. Especially when you go back to when was it? When was their first WrestleMania? Was it 23?
No,
24?
No, 21.
21.
Remember it's the whole WrestleMania goes Hollywood.
Goes Hollywood. That's it. Yeah.
And both him and Cena.
Yeah.
Just in the process of getting to the main event.
That's right. Yeah, and Cena was with JBL, wasn't he? In the other match. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So 21. Thank you. So it was weird because obviously the dynamic, because back then it was like Triple H was still like the villain and he was running the Evolution, and then Batista decided actually, no, fuck off. I'm going to actually go for the title because I feel like I can, because I'm, big and strong, but I think that I can beat you, kind of thing. And Triple H was like, no one's going to take it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, fast forward like 20 odd years later when you've got the WrestleMania 35 match and the dynamics change. Batista comes back and now he's gone from Hollywood, he's now like the arrogant asshole who like beats up Ric Flair, his former mentor, and forces Triple H into a match because he's like, give me what I want, all that sort of stuff. And then Triple H eventually agrees and stuff like that. And then it was all right. I'll tell you what reminded me of like very much like sadistic, even though Triple H was the good guy in this match, the sadistic nature that the Triple H character had, where he got like where he ripped out Batista's, was it his nose ring?
Yeah, oh yeah.
With the freaking pliers. It was just like, and actually they made that look really good because it was like, obviously it must have been plastic or something like that, but it was still the way that it was like pulling out of his nose. And it was like, okay, so you still got that little bit of like what made you great in this match, and so fair play to you, you know what I mean? So it was all right. And to be fair, Batista, okay, did he slip? He slipped, didn't he? Like on his entrance or something like that.
That actually was make me laugh. I don't know what's or hysterical tight is on New in Saudi Arabia.
That was amazing as well.
It's the Royal Rumble and that, but I think Titus O'Neil just edgy because he actually he fell under the.
Yeah, he went down. It was like if we can give a kind of like perspective, so he's like gone down the ramp. And then he's just gone under the ring. Whereas no of his volition. It's just he just decided to run really fast one day. Whereas Batista was like, he's sort of, he's kind of going a bit. He kind of sort of slips a little bit, but he styles it out and sort of laughs about it. So
yeah,
it was still funny though. But I mean, it didn't go well. It didn't go very long though. That match, did it? From what I remember, it was like
I
about 15
think
minutes.
I think it might have went on only a 10 to 15.
Yeah,
But it is, or at the same point, but Easter though was I think I think had to have Triple H carry the bulk of that match
absolutely.
b- um, because at the time he was for
So long.
I remember the last appearance was and get this until as he slapped off his face by
That moves like I quit.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was it. Oh no, it was like Bautista. That was like the Bautista phase, wasn't it? Yeah. But that was before. Then he went off and did Guardians of the Galaxy, and then came back and did that one last match. I was like, oh, fair play to you. You wanted to have one more match where you sort of were made famous, you know.
Yeah.
So fair enough. I quite like Batista. I thought he was. I think he's quite good as Drax because he's just playing himself, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when he comes back as Batista, he was just like, just this one match, just so I can say, see you later, and then I'm gone forever.
And
Those were funny.
And Triple H actually is his career because remember during the first and remember the start the first and spell it they had split up the until he boys and made Yvonne into Reverend.
Oh God, yeah, it was Deacon. It was Devon. It was it like he was like the preacher guy, and it was like Batista was like his deacon, and he'd go around collecting like donations from the crowd. But he was this big hulking mess. So it's like he beat up anyone who wouldn't like preach with Devon. Yeah. Oh God, that was funny. Yeah, and then like you're quite right, and then that's when Triple H was like, no, he can do better than that. Get him over to my brand, and I'll just make him a beast, like not this fucking preacher.
Because him and like Phil, on and him and Rick Phil, actually tag team champions in the Evolutions.
Yeah,
he pulls well, so yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, what I like, and again, this is going back to like the sort of the comedy between at the time where Triple H wanted to be the man, but at the same time he did, push for like the younger talent. That's where Randy Orton and Batista came into it at that point because he was just like, obviously it was him who saw them and thought, right, take them under my wing. We'll get Ric Flair, the fucking legend that is Ric Flair, as like the mentor of like the whole group. And I think that did them the world of good. And it led to Batista being a Hollywood megastar. Well, I say megastar, but you know what I mean. Like not quite on the Rock's level yet, but he's been in Guardians of the Galaxy for crying out loud. So that did quite well. You know what I mean? So yeah. So fair play to him in that respect for seeing like these little diamonds in the rough, as it were.
So just quickly before it ends. It's because we're coming up for the hour mark already.
Is it that time already? Oh, bloody hell. Oh, shit, it is, isn't it? Oh, sorry, I've waffled for a lot of this. I do apologise.
He could have spoke a lot more about his career, but that's for too much to actually.
We can do a part 2, and I'll watch more matches.
So a part 2, but um, um, in terms of the big, in terms of the big, in terms of the big, pay-per-view news, because the Jamie, the Jamie, or and hard if are go only get our own paper or view.
I know.
So yeah, so so what are you what's in that because the last major pay-per-view and I don't actually count the Sky box office exclusives because
And
they're
what, like
not really
rebellion and insurrection? Yeah, no.
eh, um because the young ever actually spoke about on like or SmackDowns ever, so I don't count it. So
No.
Summer Slam 92 is the last major um pay-per-view from the WWE anywhere within the UK, and it's been 3 uh, it's since
Ridiculous.
that pay-per-view. So I just want to get your thoughts on that announcement.
Well, first of all, it's about bloody time because
Yeah,
for so long, like the UK as a whole, doesn't matter where it is, England,
yeah,
Scotland, Wales, whatever, have been like screaming for something like this for so long
yeah,
because there's a reason why they decided back in 2004, 2005 to actually start doing like live Raw and SmackDowns from the UK
yeah,
because we're such a passionate fan base, like
yeah,
to the point where okay, it originated in America, but I think the Americans are so no offense to any Americans watching, by the way, but the
yeah,
Americans are so used to it there that it's
yeah,
almost like just popping down the pub on the weekend. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those
yeah,
kind of feelings. Whereas we hadn't had anything like that for
yeah,
so long. And then, because
mhm,
I distinctly remember it was my 18th birthday and I got tickets to Raw and Smack, the first ones they did here. And it was
yeah,
just like, the crowd was just unbelievable. And it was just like, even, never mind, like, if it wasn't that great on TV, you turn up at live and it's just you just forget about that because the atmosphere is so good.
yeah,
Like the entrances, like just like the whole bravado of it all. It's just great. So they kept doing that. So over the years, so from 2004, they do the usual. They do one event over here. It'd be like two. So it'd be like one in April, around about April time, and then another one in November. So that was
yeah,
like the sort of running thing because I thought that was popular, and it was they were selling out and they were making a shitload of money from here doing that.
yeah,
The years went on and on and on. It was like, okay, well, why don't we do a WrestleMania here then? Because they know that it would get sold out. But the argument was, oh yeah, but we have to cater for the Americans' time difference because they're not going to like stay up till like 1 o'clock in the morning and watch it. It's like,
yeah, but
hang on,
that's every pay-per-view.
exactly. It's like, hang on a minute, motherfuckers. Pardon my French, but we've been doing that for years. Like we've been staying up till stupid o'clock. So why can't the Americans do it like once for like a WrestleMania or something like that? But it was like no logistical reasons it can't work. So I'd given up on the idea that it was ever going to happen, and I thought, okay, I'll still when they still like 3 years ago they came in and did a live event. It was still entertaining, but it wasn't the prestige of like a big pay per view where
Yeah,
things actually happen. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
matches can affect the main storyline going on, whereas like
yeah,
the live events untelevised, they don't really affect like the main story going through like on TV.
yeah,
And then there was rumbles of it being like a big pay per view event, big stadium event happening. That was like the first rumors I heard of that were like mid last year. and it was going to be like London or it was going to be like Principality Stadium in Wales. And obviously being biased because like, I live just outside London. I grew up in London. I was like, yeah, do it, Wembley, brilliant, perfect. And then it was like, and then they announced it, and it was like, oh, it's Wales, and it's like, okay, it's it's a 2.5 hour journey from where I live, but I'm quite happily make that journey because it's the first time it's happened in so long. So, which is what I do sympathise with you, sir, because that means unless I can somehow get a helicopter out to you and we'll just fucking do it together.
I don't actually can pull in. I'm up here in Scotland.
So I know. Yeah,
So
that's when you said, oh, because I was just like, yeah, road trip, we'll do it. And it was like, oh, yeah, actually, no, it's quite far for you, isn't it? Oh,
yeah.
But well, I'll assure you, similarly to what they did with the, when they started doing Raw and SmackDown over here, because funny enough, the first Raw and SmackDown show they did was in Manchester. So I still had to go to Manchester to watch it. And then they started doing it in other places. So the next year they would say do it in like Sheffield. And then the following year they would do it in London. And then the next year they mix and match where they would do it. Yeah. So I think if they're going to do it in Wales this time, the chances are they want to branch out and do it like in Scotland one time, in London another time, Ireland the next time. You know what I mean? So your time will come, to quote an Iron Maiden song.
Because I'm actually passionate about wrestling and stuff.
Well, yeah.
So
I think it'd be amazing.
So a part of me also quite got it that was capped if is picked because as goes on half an hour away from me, so it would have been ideal for me to go.
Yeah, exactly. But like I say, like don't lose hope. I'm fairly certain they'll probably do it at like, I don't know, maybe they'll do it at Hampden Park or something, or Murrayfield or something like that. If they're doing it at Principality, that's like what 70,000-80,000.
Yeah.
So Murrayfield would probably be, if they were going to do it in Scotland, which I'm sure they will probably be there, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I hope they do it at Murrayfield or something. Yeah, but Hampden Park's a horrible stadium. You don't want to have an event, and Jesus Christ, I hate that. And that's me. And that's me. Actually, so I can off the Scottish national national football.
I was thinking, hang on a minute, yeah. But yeah, I suppose Murrayfield is like, as the rugby ground is nicer, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, never, like the Undertaker himself said at the Hall of Fame speech, never say never.
Oh yeah, and the whole Hall of Fame speech as well was
great,
perfect.
Yeah, like especially like you could see because obviously this was Triple H was in the audience, and this was after he'd made his announcement that because of his heart condition he was going to retire. So you could see like the emotion as well. He was about to burst into tears when Undertaker was like, "Thank you for making this an amazing career as well." And it was just like, oh man, I'm not crying. You're crying. Stop it. Stop it.
I mean, it's the same as was a pretty good weekend for wrestling because you had NXT standing till ever. I basically watched everything that weekend. It was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it was. It was right, wasn't it? Yeah.
Watch all
that. Daniel, have you seen Lee and Charlotte in the comments? This is great. So Lee's like, I hope you two me up and go back, which we will do. We will do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They would be deemed terrorists. They would cause so much trouble. I love it. Yeah, we would. Well, because I was going to say, like, if it ever's in London, if we ever do another one in London, man, sod it. I'll just like come and stay with me for the weekend. It'll be amazing.
Yeah.
We'll sort it out. We'll sort it out. Trust me. We'll do something.
I mean, and like in yeah, and you can take the piss out at home also. Also, life is ever only if you and he'll be around. I know you said that I know you said in 6 months he'll be below east, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
but I don't actually think
Excuse me.
so. I think he'll be shoved down the ropes, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, the thing
I
is, it's
think,
like, as long as I can't see him being, this is Omos, by everyone. If Google OMOS, he's a massive bloke, but he's really crap.
he's shit.
The thing is, I can't see him. He's not gonna. They're not gonna put him over Roman Reigns. Let's
Yeah.
face it. So we don't have to worry about him being like the main champion. But I hope they don't make like Bobby
I
Lashley
see,
become his
maybe.
bitch and stuff like that. That would just be really
Yeah.
annoying. But yeah, we'll definitely take the piss out of him. Trust me, he
Yeah.
deserves it. But yeah, hail to Triple H. Thank you very much for
Yeah.
stuff for
Hail to
wrestling.
Triple H, and can you tell everybody what's coming up on your channels, Sean, before we
Oh yeah,
finish up?
yeah, sure. So hello. You may know me, you may not know me. I'm Sean from Nerdaholics. You see me and the lads. We do Doctor Who reviews. We're doing our sort of classic run at the moment. The last one was Tomb of the Cybermen, and the latest poll we did was just putting Time Lash or the Web Planet, and Time Lash won. So Lee, that'll be interesting for you. But yeah, so we'll be doing Time Lash soon. We basically just do like, other than when we're not doing Doctor Who stuff, we as in the Doctor Who stuff we enjoy because the current era is crap. We like to,
Yeah.
in our opinions, obviously. We do other stuff as well. We talk about like Marvel, DC. We do silly reactions to silly movies as well. We've done Sharknado. I've got a film called Rubber that I haven't opened yet, which is basically about a killer tire. So that's going to be part of that Crapfest series as well. So we're going to get very drunk and watch that as well. So yeah, and Twitter is Sean at the Nerdaholics or at Nerdaholics1.
Yeah. And on my channel, the regular reviews with Charlotte will be probably he won't be back for the next few weeks because obviously I just want to I wouldn't
Yeah,
often just basic skill and just basic skill enjoy stuff as well as well, and then we'll get back to it and next next month. So we I'm sorry, because I know that there's been a few people asking me is the views
yeah.
what's
Where are they?
happening, and so yeah, that's the reason basically, and you can yeah, and so subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for all the notifications and both our channels, because I said um as I said before, what I'm the Scottish but heart with the and the jobs that you hasn't selected. You don't.
Well, you know what? In quite fitting style, Daniel,
Yeah.
you give the YouTube algorithm a pedigree like Triple H would by
Yeah.
doing all your good stuff that you always
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. If a pair um if the YouTuber, I'll get a pedigree and a Charmer. Thanks to and thanks to everybody in the chat. And on behalf of me, Ian Sean, thank you for tuning into the live stream tonight. I know it's not my usual content that I bring to you, but I'll like to change things up every now and then. Keeps everybody guessing.
Indeed. And can I just say to you, Daniel, thank you so much for having me on again. I love these wrestling talks, man. I really do. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this for so long, and it just flows so well. I thank you, and thank you for everyone, like you said in the chat, for checking us out again. Sorry, I'm not the usual lovely co-host that Daniel has, Queen Charlotte, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have, and Daniel, I will be happy to do more of these as the year goes on because it's so much fun.
Yeah, and I did actually try to get Andy Rose of organ on, but like you are unavailable, so you so I'll have to make do with a show on him.
Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, I mean, thanks again to everyone. Have a good weekend. Stay safe, and for WWE um, and a pay-per-view to Scotland, please.
Cheers, Triple H. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, here's Triple H. Thanks for the memories and thanks to the chat for tuning in. But here's the channel trailer.